We got spring training games. We have big Vegas drafts this week. We're going to be talking about that and a lot of starting pitcher targets, fades, relief pitcher targets and fades, all coming up next in the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday night, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always on Sunday nights by Jeff Erickson. If you could please rate or review the podcast, we greatly appreciate that. Helps people find the podcast, goes a long way towards helping us out. If you do enjoy listening to us, if you leave a bunch of stars, a nice comment, that is always very appreciated. We are at a good part of the season here, Jeff. We got spring training games. I flip on the TV. There's actually baseball on TV. I don't think we knew 10 days ago we're going to get that at all. We've got we're going to see each other in Vegas this weekend for some NFBC main event drafts, some golf. Hopefully, if my back decides to be a little better than it is today. But how is everything going?
It's going well. Had Tout Wars this weekend. Drafted the AL auction Saturday morning. I was helping administer the NL auction this morning. We also did the mixed yesterday and the head-to-head today. Although I wasn't as active in that, except for putting people in the leagues and all that. And then in the afternoon and evening, as the case was last night, had a soccer tournament for Aaron, which we won our first soccer tournament of the year, and we won. So That was pretty sweet.
You're a really good auctioneer too. So they were lucky to have you there. I put you second to Brady Tinker. Sorry, I'm going Brady first.
Well, that's okay. I didn't actually auctioneer. It was all online this year. So
that's right. You guys weren't. That's right.
It's all in the Fantrax auction room.
Did you not like Zoom auction kind of thing, or you guys went on
we
software?
Were in a Zoom room separately, but it just you're relying on that and everybody to get that technology and not. And trying to guess who said something first online, it's hard enough in person.
Because we did that. We did that in our golf league on Zoom. It actually worked pretty well, and you ran that pretty well.
Yeah, thank you. I run a better baseball auction than I do a golf auction, but then again, we've never done it in person. I think any in person auction, I'm pretty decent at. I get the trains running on time.
Yeah, it's fun. It's an auction. An auction really needs to have someone that runs it well, and just you got to make decisions between two people. If they say the same time, you got to make a decision, move on, and usually people respect that and go. It's when we get the waffling that causes problems. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's fun. So you drafted in NL only, you said?
AL only on Saturday.
So you got that half of the pool pretty darn well then.
I think so. Although I wrote down a list of guys I still need to add projections for after that. It's funny. And then it also it helps us help me do a follow up on news items. Like I need to follow up on the Mariners. And sure enough, very noteworthy item came up tonight. The fact that we are doing a closer committee in Seattle again. It's, we guessed at that, but now it's official.
What the auction was it Saturday morning or Sunday morning? Saturday morning. So what does one do with Trevor Story in an AL auction since he had not signed yet?
So Labor does one thing, Tout does another. Labor, which happened a couple weekends ago. It's earlier, even before the lockout ended.
Okay, yeah. So you had a lot of names then that had not.
Yeah, well, and Steve Gardner did a creative thing where the top 12 players by NFBC ADP that were still free agents were just taken off the board for the only leagues. And they're going to have a separate live fab. But they have to use their actual fab budget to get these guys. Okay. So, that way, and Tout, we decided to do it differently, in part because more guys had already signed, but we locked the pool at 9 a.m. Eastern each day. So, and then if that player was a free agent, he was automatically eligible no matter where he signed afterward. Okay. So the NL Touts were able to draft Trevor Story today because
you could keep him all year long.
Yes, and you get his stats.
All right,
it's as if he got traded across leagues after the draft.
So you essentially just added. I mean, I guess you guys did it today, so most everybody was signed. But you just pretty much added Jansen's Story. I guess Correa was already signed, so a couple of guys that are just were eligible no matter what.
Yeah, so Story, Solero, I think went today. Yep. Marwin Gonzalez went today. Huge, true.
Huge right now.
But Solero was one of the other last hitters available. Yeah. It's funny how Friday things firmed up pretty quickly, and then then this morning took care of the remainder.
Yeah. So in Labor, so Freddie Freeman is going for like a live auction at some point.
Yes. Well, and in both the AL Labor and NL Labor, Freeman will be in the NL version.
Right.
Story will be in the AL version. And so then you have to decide, like, okay, a full season of Freddie Freeman, how much is that worth in my $100 fab budget?
Do you have $0 bids or no?
No $0 bids.
Oh God!
And you can't trade fab. You get to redeem if you have a player who goes on the IL, like long-term IL, you can redeem. I think it's half his salary and back in fab.
And that's an only league where you're going to have guys that aren't playing, and that's tough. I was going to say $100 if there were $0 bids without a doubt for Freeman.
Oh yeah, easily. But now I think it's around 90. I would guess.
I was going to go 85, but yeah, $10 in an only league when you can't trade that. I mean, it's Freddie Freeman in an only league. Like, that's dominant, and that's huge, and that's a huge team changer. But yeah, that's tough. Yeah, you're probably right. 90 is probably about the right number.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, in labor, it's even harder because if you fab a guy, he has to be active that next week. And
I was thinking, well, for Freeman, that's easy. For all these other bums that you saw, you have to make them active. That's what do you think? So if you and I would go 90, that means someone would probably go 95, 96, right?
Maybe. I would say
somewhat aggressive.
The tout world, labor world, I might be a little bit more conservative than FBC, though, too. But wait, there's more. Labor even has one other thing. This is an old school rotisserie rule, the original rotisserie rule. You can't shuttle guys active and reserve if they're on a major league roster. So your pitcher has to start in cores. You either roll with them or cut them. You can't bench him.
You can't bench him
unless he's an original reserve. So
I got you. So if you pick someone up, you can't.
Or he gets demoted, then you can bench him.
That's tough. Yeah, that'll be when is that wacky live fab?
I think it's coming up soon. I'll have to ask Steve, but it's a very creative solution. I like it. I like both solutions. I like that they're different.
Yeah,
it gives us something to talk about, and I'll tell you what, it will create a lot of interest, that live fab for both of those leagues.
And you guys did labor. You couldn't have really done the tout rule because there are probably too many free agents. That brings a lot of people into the player pool. So probably exactly. Because now there were like 3 or 4 big names. That's it. So
yeah,
that is that's wild. That's pretty interesting. So since we're talking about, let's jump into the news and notes. We had some big signings since the last RotoWire podcast, which is Friday morning. The first was Carlos Correa, late Friday night. Really weird that a hit one like that breaks at like 2 a.m. Central Time. But signed with the Twins, a really fascinating deal. He signed for 3 years, $105 million, but opt-outs after every season. So he can make his $35 million this year, decide to leave if he wants. If he has an average year, maybe he sticks. If it was a good year, maybe he tries to sign somewhere for $200 million. Probably the only way the Twins get someone like that. And I guess it makes sense for them at least to go for it this year. And they're not really on the hook for the other 2 years unless he opts in. But it's kind of an interesting setup how they did that.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a can't lose for them. If he opts out, that means he had a crazy good year and stayed healthy.
Yeah.
Which is what they wanted. I mean, I guess you lose if I guess it's the opposite. If he gets hurt right away, and
hurt's about the only way they really, really lose, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Or like the rest of the team gets hurt and they're awful, and then he still opts out after a great year. Then you're like, okay, well, we paid a lot of money, had a great year, but for what cause?
Yeah. At least it was only 1 year at that point. But I mean, if he stays, you got 3 years of Carlos Correa, so I don't think anybody's going to argue with that, right? So it's
right.
It's fascinating. It's a pretty fascinating deal. I'm surprised that there was no. I don't want to not call it Twins contenders, but no like big money, big name contenders are like, oh, I'd jump at that deal in a second. Like, give me that, and I mean, like the Yankees. Like, it seemed like that would be an easy move for them.
I think this was all drawn up by his agent because there was an ego aspect of it. He wanted to have the highest average annual value on a per year base, for every infielder, higher than any other infielder out there, and he's got it like. By like $100,000 or something like that. It's the whole or it's like it's 35.1 as opposed to 35 or something like that. And good for him, and good for the Twins for being willing to taking the short-term deal because, like we said, I mean, and there's risk in everything. But think about this: it's hard to have the shorter the contract, the harder it is for it to be a bad contract. Yep. And it doesn't put them anywhere at risk of going over the threshold or anything like that. They still have room to go add more. I mean, part of the reason why they did the Donaldson deal is so they could afford Correa. I mean, if you're trading Donaldson for Correa, you do that every day and twice on Sunday.
Even I have to probably admit that, even though one is my favorite player and one's one of my least favorite players. But yes, I would admit that. And on the other thing, I mean, getting creative is probably the only way that a place like Minnesota gets someone like that. Like I have no issue with Minnesota. I think it's a great place, but not a lot of players are actively signing big free agent contracts there. So it's sometimes you got to get creative to get someone in. I don't think any of their fans will be upset with that. How do you feel about Correa fantasy wise? Obviously, we're a fantasy show here. ADP is about 100. The move from Houston to Minnesota? I'd probably a little bit, pretty close lineup, but the Astros are probably
pretty neutral.
Yeah. I mean, the Astros are probably a little bit better lineup, but with him out of it, maybe not. You look at his stat catch page and pretty solid, really on the batting average stats are really good. He's 96th percentile, XBA, X slug is good. The stolen bases are gone. So fantasy wise, that obviously matters. And that's why he's down at pick 100. Where do you feel about him now that he's in Minnesota at the ADP?
I like his cost for the ADP better than Seager, even though I love watching Seager play. I like Dansby better even still though, because granted, batting average is way riskier with Dansby, but right. He gets the stolen bases, and he's in just as good a lineup in a better ballpark too, for that matter.
Yep.
I don't have any Correa yet, in part because I want some stolen bases from my shortstops and second baseman. It really, you really have to. If you got Starling Marte, okay, fine. Right. Now, if I don't get stolen bases from my shortstop, it's okay.
Yeah.
Let alone Alberto Mondesi, right. But obviously we know the variance there.
The variance being who else is in your league, right?
Well, that, and I was just thinking, yes, he could steal 80, he could steal 20,
That those are actually both real possibilities, which is pretty wild that we can say that for a player. But yeah, I think Correa's one of those guys that I think he's really safe. I think he'll be really solid. I don't think there's a massive 40 home run, 120 RBI season coming, but I think he'll hit 28 to 30 home runs. The batting average is really nice, especially at that pick. Starts to get to the point where batting average is kind of hard to get. But you're right. You need as long as your stolen bases are answered. I think in the 7th round, if you on a spot where you don't really need stolen bases in your middle, I think he works really nicely. I think the price is actually pretty good at the moment. Yeah,
I think so too. I'm definitely more interested now than before. I just got to say, even though it hurt our Reds, sorry, got to get that right. I like what the Twins have been doing, including getting Sonny Gray. I like, granted, it probably hurt to lose Donaldson, but then they kind of replaced it right away. And they got Urshela, who can play third now, is going to vacuum third base, doesn't have to play out of position at shortstop. That's a really good defensive left side of the infield. That's going to help those pitchers a lot too.
And I will never admit that I know a ton about prospects, but it seems like they have some guys, if they wanted to make a Frankie Montas, Sean Manaea, one of those, get one of those guys. It feels like they're one SP2, SP3 away from really being competitive. Because you look at, I like Bailey Ober. I like Joe Ryan, but we're talking about guys that you don't want to be your second pitcher. And Sonny Gray could be your one, maybe, and then I don't know if you have a 2 in Bundy. I think they need one more guy that's going to throw 180 innings and be good at doing it.
You put Montas or Manaea as your one ahead of Sonny Gray, and you put Ryan and Ober 3-4 or vice versa. You got yourself as 2.
Yeah, it changes that whole dynamic. I got that joke, by the way. That's good,
especially in the AL Central too.
Yeah, I think that. But I think you need one more arm. I think right now they're going to lose. You see them losing a lot of 8-6 games. Whereas if they get one more arm, I like some of the arms in their bullpen. I think they can kind of piece together. But I think they need one more starter. And there are 2 readily available in green and gold. And I have to imagine they're making some calls in the moment.
Yeah, so another shoe's going to drop. That's the thing is, it's almost like I'm getting impatient, with the teardowns of our teams. It's like I know the Reds even said they're not trading Castillo or Molly, but for now is the thing. And just rip the Band-Aid off now. All hope is gone. You might as well don't tease us, Tito.
If you're going to trade Chapman and Olsen, there's no point. What am I going to do? I don't want to watch Montas play with the worst lineup I've ever seen. There's just no point at that point. So, another big news kind of broke this morning. Trevor Story was kind of the biggest name left after Correa signed to the Red Sox. A more traditional longer-term deal, 6 years, $440 million. I think there's some complicated opt-outs in there. I didn't fully study the whole thing, but Story's interesting. He had the elbow thing last year, and there were some rumors going around. Maybe it's not fully healthy, but you assume the Red Sox think he is if they sign him with that amount of money. 24 home runs, 20 stolen bases in 2021, hit 251. Dropped his K rate a little bit. Hard hit was solid. Barrel rate was solid. You look at his StatCast page, it's fairly middling. It's a little concerning, especially leading cores from the batting average. Granted, he's going to a good place to hit in Boston, but he's a 35th percentile in XBA last year. ADP is about 36. Someone asked me earlier, where I kind of put him now. I think I move him up a little bit now that we know where we knew he wasn't going back to cores. So that 36 was kind of, where could he be aside from cores? He was never going back to Colorado. after what they did to him last year and how upset he was. But I think I'd put him right at that 2-3 turn. I think someone asked me, I think I'd take him over Mullins and Whit Merrifield. It'd be really close for me with like Marte and Tim Anderson. So kind of in that range right there.
Yeah. It's as good as landing spot as you're going to get.
Yeah.
And Fenway is obviously much better for righty hitters than lefty hitters. Although Story will often try to go oppo for those home runs. I don't know if he'll continue to do so, but I mean, he gets the monster. Now the question is, how healthy is he? The elbow is a big thing. And can he adapt to playing second base? Because Xander is kind of steadfastly refusing to be moved off shortstop. Xander's got to opt out after this season, so we'll see what happens. I was looking at his contract just to see what might happen. Otherwise, it's through 2025. But
I assume free agency as a shortstop is probably a better boon than free agency as a second baseman.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. But they might just be telling him, all right, you get this year at short, but you're Xander Bogaerts is not the greatest defensive shortstop. He does not have a ton of range.
And Trevor Story's pretty darn good on defense, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially if his elbow is good enough. Now that might be a concern is can he throw? And maybe that's why they're good with him playing second for this year. But obviously third base is closed off. It's second or short for these two.
Yeah, and I mean the thing with Story is I think he's got to run, but you look at it and he's run a lot lately. He ran 20 times last year. You look at 2020, they only had 59 games. He had 15 stolen bases in that season. So he hasn't quite been the huge power guy lately. There's some stuff about what his expected home runs were in and out of cores, but I think Phil Dussault weighed in that just that stat doesn't really work with cores, and I'd have to look into that a little more. But it sounds like he just if you look at other stadiums, the cores did not help him for power at all last year. It always helps batting average. He's still at 251. I think like you said, it's a good spot as it could be. I think he's right in that 2-3 turn, and I'd probably consider him there. Second shortstop eligibility doesn't hurt. Most second basemen this year are eligible at other positions, but you never hurts to get another spot there. I think it's a good spot. Where do you think he hits in the lineup?
Good question. Obviously, haven't had a chance to see him in a Red Sox lineup here yet.
I'm thinking fifth, probably, right? Kike, Devers, Bogaerts, JD, Story.
Yeah, maybe. I guess I have to think a little bit more about that. We're going to get spring training lineups pretty quickly, although obviously Story might take a little longer to get there. But I don't see Kike necessarily sticking. He was decent last year, like a 330 OBP, maybe even a little bit better, but career-wise, I think it's like 315. So is that something that necessarily is like locked in stone?
I don't think so. I think it's to start. I think they like him there, and they've said they like him there. But yeah, I think that you're right. I mean, you got 304, 270, 337 the last 3 years OBP. I mean, he's going to get on base the first 4 or 5 weeks to stick there. And it's interesting. Do you think? I guess we think that Jackie Bradley Jr. becomes fourth outfielder on the bench, kind of thing.
Yeah, just as center fielder. JD can go to DH. I think that could be a pathway there too.
I guess I was thinking they had another outfielder, but I guess it's Kike, Devers, and Kike, Verdugo, and Bradley, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And can Bradley be an everyday player in that lineup? I don't know. I mean, his defense is so good.
Yeah.
I get that. Although I guess I was reading something that it wasn't as good as it's been in the past either. But that might be because he was slumping so badly otherwise.
His offense you say slumping badly. His offense was truly abysmal last year.
Oh, it's horrible.
He had 428 plate appearances. That's a lot of time in the field or in the game. And he had 236 OBP, not average, 236 OBP. That is dreadful.
Absolutely. Untouchable in an OBP league like Tunnel Wars.
31% strikeout rate for Jackie Bradley Jr. with 6 home runs. Like that, that should not happen.
No. And Milwaukee's not a bad place to hit. Makes you wonder what happened to him.
Yeah, it's very strange. But the other big news we had, I guess it was yesterday morning early, was Kenley Jansen, who went. But if we talk about fantasy wise, he made some waves in the fantasy storm because Will Smith had been drafted like as a 5th, 6th rounder, like 8th to 12th closer. No longer a closer. As far as everyone can tell, it seems like Jansen, they signed him for $16 million. He's there to close games. Smith kind of moves to a 7th inning. Maybe gets mixing and matching based on matchups, but it feels like Kenley is the guy there. I kind of thought that I'd be off Kenley, and then I looked deeper, and I actually kind of liked what I saw more. You look at it first, you just see that 13% walk rate, and you're like, oh my god, this is scary. But you look at how he did the last couple of months in the playoffs. He was a 7% walk guy in August, 8% in September. He's amazing with hard contact, under 30% hard hit rate all 7 years. The StatCast has kept track of that. A barrel rate under 5% the last 3 years. So while he had a little bit of command issues last year, more than a little bit, 13%, he's still really hard to hit. 31% strikeout rate. Velocity was up, which is probably the most important thing. He's kind of down the low 92s. He was 94 last year after being 92 a couple years before that. His StatCast page is nuts. It's all red. I'm a little more into Kenley as I kind of dug in and realized that he kind of fixed stuff in the second half last year.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. You did. I think he almost gets pushed down because of his playoff issues sometimes a little too much. Certainly was last year. You're not going to get that same discount that you got last year, where I think he was going in like the 9th in the 12 teamers and sometimes 7th and 8th, even in the 15s.
Yeah, that's he flipped that script. He was really good in the playoffs and good at the down the stretch.
Right.
Whereas the year before, it seemed like every time it's probably a little more defealing because you have him on a team and you realize every time he came, it felt like he gave up a home run. But there was a while there where he was giving up a lot of home runs and walking guys, and it's just tough because we had this like set of closers, and now there's really one less because Jansen was already being drafted as a sure closer, but we thought he'd go somewhere where they didn't have one yet. But you take Smith out of there, it's not like you're adding anybody else. It's just another closer off the list. It's tough. And if you did a lot of some of those high money DCs or some of those big leagues, I mean, if you took Smith as your second closer and your first closer, that stings badly.
Yeah, for sure it does. And I think I've got a couple leagues with him. I got him in Raz Slam. I know that.
To no one's surprise, I have him in the Yogurt League, and I may not get a save 2 years back-to-back running there now.
Yeah, there you go. You need to get some sprinkles on that yogurt, but
I had Rosenthal and Kirby Yates last year in the top 10 rounds. Neither one got a save or pitched for me at any point during the year. So yeah, I'm continuing a nice streak there.
Yeah. Instead, you're just getting I'm going to offend somebody by picking their favorite topping, so I'll just move on. But because that's the sort of thing people feel passionate about or think it's an allegory for something else. But
the answer is gummy bears, because I love gummy bears, but when they freeze and get too hard in the frozen yogurt, I just can't. It just doesn't work for me.
I never put gummy bears on any of my ice cream or yogurt. So there you go. Good answer.
It's like my favorite candy, so I always try it. I'm like, this has to be good, and then it just doesn't work. They get rock hard. It's a terrible experience.
It doesn't appeal to me at all.
So I went ahead and offended the gummy bear people for you there, right there.
Yeah, and the gummy worms too. Well, let's just throw that in there too. Not appealing at all on ice cream or yogurt.
Yes. Is Jansen, that's kind of a neutral move for you in terms of where he was?
I think it's actually slight negative. Ballpark is a little tougher. Will Smith's still there.
Yeah. But I think good team that wins a lot of games. Maybe even that.
Well, the turnabout is I don't think Kelly always pitches every day. I mean, this is a deep bullpen. Oh, very deep bullpen. Colin McHugh just signed with them too. Yeah, and
they had a lot of good offense, and Max Fried was good last year, but the playoffs, that bullpen was just that. I mean, I think that's why they won the World. Their bullpen was so nails last year in the playoffs.
Yeah. And so I don't think they're going to ask him to be like the standalone closer, whereas you put him on other teams, maybe they do.
Right.
The big winner in my mind is Jordan Romano, because everybody was rumoring Kenley of the Jays. Yep. There's nobody else out there right now. I don't see anybody else out there that is, you can always find someone, but there's not like a big name free agent out there right now that could steal saves from him.
Yeah, I don't think there's somebody that's coming in and taking that job like outright from him. I guess the other big winner would probably be Blake Trinan, although
they've already said that's not an exclusive closer job.
Everybody, I think Dave Roberts says is we're doing this kind of by committee and figuring it out. I don't know how much I buy that. I feel like you have someone as good as Trinan and you get into May and June, I think he's probably going to end up kind of reverting back to that. He was very loyal with Kenley as the guy. Yeah. I tend to think he's going to go back to that. Maybe he's just, but I don't, it's not what you like to hear though, if you drafted Trinan or want to at some point.
Right. Well, and it wasn't that, and it was a little different than Seattle. They didn't say we are going to use a committee. They said, we're not going to name a closer.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a pretty important distinction.
So Seattle came out and said we actually are having a committee. Is that what the
I'll give you the quote because I did the updates tonight on that. He goes, we're going to use like a number of people to close out the finish games, I think is the phrase he used. This is exactly what when I say Scott Service.
Right.
But like, I think you saw that in the draft price because Seattle's going to win a decent number of games. If they had one exclusive closer with those guys, you should be on it. But the exact line was, we'll have a number of guys who will finish off games for us, Scott Service said. So that means Steckenrider, Castillo, Giles, who threw 95 in batting practice, that's a good sign. He's going to
Giles is the one that I like to potentially, get there if they gave it to somebody, but it sounds like they're not going to.
Yeah, I'll still say this though, and it might just be because he can't pitch every day, and he's also not going to be the guy. He's still not going to be the guy that's like, okay, we need an immediate out right now. Get up there. He's not going to be the rubber arm guy.
Yeah.
I still think Sewald's the most likely to be treated like that. He'll still get saves, but I think he could also get like 4 outs and they get the last out of the 7th and all the 8th or something like that.
The most frustrating part of those guys is that you just can't figure out when to start them. Like they're going to be good, but there are going to be weeks you're like, oh, I have this 7-star this week, so I'm not going to start this guy. And then Giles gets 2 saves. It's so frustrating. Even if he's pitching well, it's always hard to throw that in and toss it. And then you throw him for 2 weeks, he gets no saves, and you take him back out. It's just hard to time those guys. I had a couple of the Rays guys last year. It's just so frustrating to deal with.
It is. I think in an only league, you can live with the stats.
For sure.
15-teamer, maybe 12-teamer, no way.
Yeah, I agree there. And the stats have got to be really good too. Like the problem with that is you throw him in there and he gives up 4 runs, something that blows it up the whole time. But
or he pitches once.
Yeah, he gets 1 strikeout and gives up a run. The Devin Williams of like 2 years ago, like that worked because it was just so many innings and so many strikeouts. It worked, but it's got to be on the extremes to work in a mixed league.
Sewald worked, but in the cumulative, not in the granular. That's the tricky part. Unless you just had the stones to leave him active every single week. Of course, Sewald didn't get called up until May, so that's also.
But still 65. But he got 10 wins, which is the whole difference there.
Right.
I mean, if he had
Chad Green was worth it. Yeah. There's seasons like that, but
good luck falling into the guys that get the 10 wins. Like if Sewald gets 2 wins, then we're looking at like, oh, that wasn't worth it. It was a 3 ERA and 11 saves. You threw them all year. Like this is more. But the 10 wins are huge because that's more than a lot of starters had.
Absolutely.
Last big name to sign this weekend, Jorge Soler signed with Miami on a 3-year deal. I think we know the stuff with Soler. Big power, had 27 home runs last year, only hit 223, did have 48 in 2019 with Happy Fun Ball. Hard contact's always really good with him. The K rate did drop a little bit, so I do like to see that. He had a really bad BABIP last year, hit 250, BABIP was 250, the career is 297. So you think maybe that pops up a little bit, helps the average. Not a great place to hit in Miami, so that wasn't a great landing spot in terms of like fantasy stats. Pretty good spot in terms of like playing time. I think in a situation like that, he plays every day and hits in the middle of the lineup. But did this move Soler a little bit down for you?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, we know playing time is not going to be a problem for him. He's such a streaky hitter to begin with, and then you put him in a tough ballpark. Although Kansas City is also tough.
It is.
But yeah, I don't love it. I like that Miami's signing some people. They signed he and Avisail Garcia. Soler and Garcia are nice adds for this offense.
Yeah, the top 7 in that lineup is now a workable lineup. It's like a workable major league lineup right now.
Yeah, but it's kind of like one of those you have to squint to see it. Like, can Brian De La Cruz be productive? Is Jesus Sanchez really going to take that next step? Is Joey Wendell and Brian Anderson an adequate platoon? Jazz Chisholm, is he going to be the first 2 months Jazz Chisholm or the last 4 months Jazz Chisholm?
I think Avisail is going to play center field too. That'll be interesting.
I think De La Cruz will, won't he?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Garcia.
Interesting.
Because it'll mix and match, but I think your like main opening day, like usual lineup will be Garcia, Sanchez, and Soler in the outfield, and Cooper DHing probably.
Or Soler DHing, and that's the other.
That's the problem. Is Soler in the outfield is a disaster too.
Yeah, he is.
And Avi played a bunch of center field. I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I know he's fast and has all the sprint speed. I didn't know if he's a center fielder though.
He played a bunch in 2020. He only played there once last year. I looked it up at the time, but so did play a bunch. But I mean, he's 31, and I guess he's fast. But your defensive outfield, if he's playing center and Soler is one of the quarters, defensive outfield is not going to be strong.
Right.
All right, a few more news and notes before we get to we're going to talk some pitchers, targets, and fades. When we get to the fades last week, we're going to talk targets and fades, and then we'll do offensive targets next week. But first, a note from our sponsors at Fantrax. Are you looking for a new platform for your fantasy baseball league? Fantrax is free MLB Fantasy League Manager, the most customizable, easy-to-use, and feature-rich platform in the industry. Fantrax offers the most in-depth player pool in the industry, including minor league players. Fantrax offers Dynasty, Keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Are you coming from another service? Fantrax makes that process easy. Fantrax can import all of your current leagues and customize if needed. Sign up for free today and be entered to win Fantrax's MLB Game Day experience, which includes tickets to any Major League Baseball regular season game for your entire league and $1,000 towards travel and accommodations. All you have to do is host your fantasy baseball league on Fantrax to be entered. The more leagues you create, the more chance you have to win. Simply go to fantrax.com/RotoWire and sign up today. So, Jeff, a few quick injury notes before we get into our pitcher talk. Starling Marte has not started hitting yet in Mets camp, which is never great. He has a sore left oblique. I guess with a guy that we're worried about speed, at least it's not a leg injury, but obliques with hitters are never a great thing.
No, they're not. Oh, I think they're worse for pitchers, maybe even still, but they're bad. They're bad regardless.
They're bad,
and it always sounds innocuous at first, right? And every once in a while you get major tear right away, 6 weeks done. But
it's always like the guy stretching it and kind of tweaks it, and then all of a sudden he can't swing for a week.
Yeah, then it's 2 weeks, and then it's 3, and you're like, and then he comes back too soon, and it's another 2 more weeks. Yeah, that's always fun. It does give me, I think it's cause for pause a little bit here.
I mean, he's a late second round pick. It's harder to click on that button knowing that maybe he misses 2 weeks. And the thing you always worry about this is he comes back a day or two too soon, has a check swing, and then he's out a month. That's what obliques scare me. Is I feel like it's one of those things. It's hard to know if it's fully healed until you are out there playing, and then you're like, oh, it's fully healed. But if you have a setback, it's so tough.
Plus, he's a kind of a accumulation sort of player. I mean, aren't we all? But from the standpoint that you need those stolen bases, you need those runs to justify that price because you're not going to get the power. For sure. So that's, not great there. I'd like to see a couple more updates here in the next couple of days before we draft on Saturday. Quick notes, Luis Urias is questionable for opening day, out 2 weeks with a left quad, with a quad injury. I don't remember what was right or left. He was someone that was getting a little bit of buzz, had a really good, I think finished the year last year with 3 position eligible. Sounds like we're probably going to miss, I imagine miss the first couple of weeks of the season with him if it's by the time he gets ramped back up again. Yeah, it sounded like he got hurt running the bases, and he was going first to third on a Pedro Severino hit, I think. Yep, very good memory. Very good. I was trying to think of a catcher that used to catch for the Orioles. What was his name? I'm glad you didn't say Pedro Serrano. That would be good. You got that one too. He could trot on that one. Yeah, but yeah, it's a bummer, especially because he's one of those ultimate flexibility guys you're counting on that you can, if you're weak in one position, you can pivot around and things like that nature there. So, granted, full season, if it's properly rested and healed, then fine, you'll deal with missing 2 weeks. But he's someone that took a lot of steps up last year. I mean, everything was kind of on the rise. His hard hit was on the rise. Barrel was up. You could kind of see him taking those steps, becoming a different kind of player. The guy that we, he was a big prospect, and the guy that we thought we were going to get. Right. It took a couple of years, but he was finally taking that step up. It looked like. Yeah. In Cincinnati, I'm calling him your Reds from now on because I don't want you to take any credit. I don't want you to take any ownership of the A's. I wouldn't want to do that to you anymore. So it can just be your Reds and my A's. I don't want to be associated with an A's owner. For that matter. Or Reds owner. Nor do I. I don't want to be any. They had more stuff today. They all make me ill. What happened today? Oh, Dave Cavill, who's the president, who's just. Every time he opens his mouth, it's ugh. Every time he's just talking about how he feels really bad for the fans. They trade everybody, but it's because the stadium's old and it's just the same crap over and over. It's just like your owner's a billionaire and just got a revenue share check. They got added to the CBA. Just stop crying and look at I don't want to get into it, but it's bad. Every time Cavill opens his mouth, it grosses me out. Yeah. But Lucas Sims, your presumed closer, I guess we'll call him, now could begin the season on the IL. Sounds like he's kind of taking the right steps to get there and not be on the IL long. But how do you think this impacts the situation in terms of who closes games here this first month of the season for the Reds? So Joe G, I think, was tweeting at me earlier, and I apologize for not answering it right away. But my answer is it really doesn't change anything at all because I don't expect a full-time closer. Yeah. I don't expect Sims to be the full-time closer. I don't expect Art Warren to be the full-time closer, Luis Tessa. I think they'll all be closers. I think, it's going to be the same closer situation as it was last year where whoever's healthy and pitching well at the time will get a chance. The second you show any sort of shakiness, David Bell's going to pull you mid-inning anyways. So from that standpoint, but Sims, I like Sims. And it sounds like it might even be just like a week or two. He's throwing bullpens already. So he said it was just a little hiccup with his elbow, I believe was the phrase. So that always makes you feel great. Yeah, it does. Well, especially because that was what put him on the IR to begin with last year too. Right. So, but it's the usage that really bothers me, and the fact that there's going to be a dwindling number of save chances.
My favorite is Roster Resource has the Reds with 4 closers right now.
Yeah, they're the Mariners, except they're not as good.
I didn't have it on my notes, but Jose Barrero, the shortstop who was looking like he was going to start, and you look at some of the minor league stats, look really good, has a hamate injury out for 6 weeks. That's a brutal one for hitters.
Oh, it's 6 weeks now.
Isn't it 6 weeks?
Okay, that must have been something new that I didn't see. I saw earlier that he was dealing with something. He was a little behind, but I didn't realize it was a hamate in 6 weeks. So that's a big deal.
See Trent Rosencrantz, hamate injuries, left hand, especially missed 6 weeks. Yes,
that's so. Yeah, that
I just want to make sure I didn't mess it up. Sorry.
No, it's okay, but it's just something that makes me really unhappy. But
yeah, I didn't want to be breaking that news to you. I thought maybe you'd seen it, but he was one of the Reds that I was actually excited about seeing. I mean, he was what was he? He was 19 home runs, 16 stolen bases last year in the minors in only 85 games. They seem to be excited about him kind of taking the job to start the season, and now obviously that's kind of out the window.
Yeah, although it's funny, early in spring training, before the Suarez and Winker trade, they said that Kyle Farmer is in the lead. Now, Barrero was late to report.
I remember that, yeah.
And maybe that has something to do with it. Now that we know that he had a hamate injury, or unless that happened in workouts, so I'm not sure which is the case, but it doesn't matter. He's out until May.
Yeah.
And, once you're and then there's going to probably be a rehab assignment. Yeah.
And then they're going to want him to get him to some at bats in the minor leagues. I mean, we're talking it.
And how can you take out Kyle Farmer when he's hitting he's got a 445 OPS?
Yeah. I mean, if Kyle Farmer's leading the majors in home runs at that point, like, you're not going to take him out.
Kyle Farmer is going to be he's up to 752 OPS. I don't want to diminish the work that Kyle Farmer is doing in the second best month of his life.
There you go. Yeah, no. So I mean, obviously Barrero now is pretty much he's undraftable in any kind of fab league. If you have a injured spot and you're really deep, maybe, but I mean, you just cross him off now.
Yeah, I think so.
Last note, Zach Wheeler, his pitch threw 35 pitches in a bullpen session on Sunday. It seems like he's progressing in the right direction. So maybe maybe a week or two behind is looking okay. I mean, obviously you don't like the fact that he had that shoulder soreness in December. We talked about that last week, but it seems like he's kind of moving the right direction at least.
Yeah, my panic might have been a little premature. I don't know.
I don't know if we know that yet. It still might have been okay. But where do you draft him if you're drafting? Say he throws another bullpen session on Wednesday and it's 40 pitches, and he says, "I'm going to throw a live bullpen on Sunday." Where are you clicking the draft button or saying his name out loud? Actually, we're doing the in-person draft. It'll be fun. Where are you saying his name out loud on Saturday?
After someone says Zach Wheeler, I didn't think Zach Wheeler would go this early.
There you go.
No, I don't know.
You're not taking him early enough, is what your answer is.
I don't know. I need to know more information because what's the progression? What's the schedule after that? One bullpen session with, I gotta ramp up a little bit more on like what that means. Like, does 35 pitches means he's throwing live batting practice next? Does it mean he's got to have 4 more bullpen sessions, let alone spring training games, let alone getting stretched out, be ready for the start of the season?
If he's there at the 3-4 turn, are you saying his name?
You're pinning me down here.
I am. I thought it'd be a fun little practice for you. Yeah, I'm saying his name. I'm saying his name at the 3-4 turn.
Okay.
So that's pick 45.
I'm going to merge, a Twitter question with this: Sandy Alcantara or Zach Wheeler?
Damn, that's tough. Zach Wheeler.
Okay, so
that's a hard.
You agree with me that Alcantara is going a little too early then?
A little too. I like Sandy, but I think a little too early.
Too. My love for him was pure.
Zach Wheeler was unbelievable last year. Like, just fully supported breakout and everything. I love him. I mean, hopefully I have another week of news by Saturday. If the news is positive, I think I'd go Wheeler right now.
Nola or Wheeler?
Nola.
Yeah, me too.
Just that little bit of safety, I think.
Yeah, I was saying he might drop into like 60s or 70s for Wheeler, but this news is positive.
Yeah, I think that's gone. I think you're looking at late 30s, early 40s, probably right after Nola and Giolito go. I think you get Alcantara and Wheeler at the same time.
Yeah. Of course, maybe I'll just take a pitcher ahead of that so I don't have to worry about that decision.
That's a good segue. Let's talk some pitchers. We talked all hitters last week, so I want to do we did fades last week for hitters. So I want to do pitcher fades and targets. We'll kind of merge them, and then we'll do hitter targets next week. We'll jump into that as soon as we have a note from our sponsors at Thrive. Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is an exciting player prop fantasy contest. With Thrive Fantasy, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus on the top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Sign up for Thrive Fantasy today and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. Here's how you claim that free RotoWire subscription. Number 1, visit rotowire.com/thrive. Number 2, deposit a minimum of $10 and receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Number 3, play in your first paid contest and receive that free 6-month RotoWire subscription. So, Jeff, let's do starting pitchers first. Let's go positive first. Let's go with a couple of your targets. These are guys that at the ADP is someone you're going to willing to push up a little bit. You want to have on multiple teams. You want to take on your big money teams here. Give me your first. I figure we talk maybe one that's a top 150 guy, and then maybe one that's a little bit later. But who in this kind of top first 10 rounds are you really finding yourself wanting to get in drafts this year?
Joe Musgrove.
Ooh, I like it. All right.
I like the team.
Sell me.
Okay, so I like the team context. I like the strikeouts. I think he's kind of emerged as a more durable pitcher now. I do worry. I think I like the manager better now. I think that whole context has improved. Losing Tatis hurts without a doubt, but I only tangentially. I mean, I don't think
that's 10 starts, right? 8, 9 starts, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I like where he's going. He saw a slight increase in velocity across the board. There's a lot of things I like. He did a good job with right-handers. And that's one of those things that you kind of look for a little bit more. That was a problem with him in the past.
Do you worry about the second half, or was that just a full workload off the short season, just kind of worn down kind of thing? Because I kind of feel that's the case.
That's how I feel too.
Yeah,
I found myself getting him. I think I got him early 6th in TGFBI in Yogurt. Excuse me. Let's call it by its proper name.
Please. Some respect.
I have a reputation to uphold. But he's often gone late 5th in others, mid to late 5th in others. But I'm kind of willing to pay that price, especially if I want to get that second ace early. You got to realize though, it comes at a cost. If I'm taking a starting pitcher there, I like him better than the other starting pitchers that go in that range. How about that?
I think that's fair. His ADP about 70 if we're going to last like 3 weeks in live draft. So you're right in there about late 5th somewhere in there is probably where you got to go to do it. Do you like him more than Lance Lynn and Max Fried?
More than Lance Lynn for sure. I took him barely ahead of Max Fried and Yogurt. I like both those pitchers. I think I got Fried in the beat Jeff Erickson. But I'd love to get both of them. If I'm like that, those are two guys I like a lot in that range.
More than Gausman?
More than Gausman, more than Barrios, definitely more than Cease.
Okay.
Gausman's tricky. I mean,
well, don't spoil that one yet.
Okay, I won't. I'll let you opine on Gausman.
He's coming not in this segment, but the next one.
Spoiler. You're self-spoiling then.
I self-spoiled, but we're gonna talk about him in a second. But I like Musgrove a lot. I mean, I think we were kind of waiting on him for a couple of years. A lot of people liked him, and then he kind of arrived. And my only pause was the second half, but I think I think there's a lot of guys that just kind of wore down last year. I mean, you go off the short year. I think that the bump up in innings was tough on a lot of guys. I think he just kind of was one of them too.
Yeah.
His first half was awesome. His strikeouts and everything. He was insane that half.
Yeah.
So I have a couple guys here, but the thing I want him to pick, I'm gonna go Trevor Rogers. As I looked more closely at Trevor Rogers, I really liked what I saw. Obviously, excellent season on the surface last year, 264, 115. Only made 25 starts. He had, I think, some sort of personal or family issue that missed a bunch of time in August. I love the K rate here, 28.5%. The walks are a little bit high, but 8.4. That's kind of the one thing. If he adjusts that, he could really take off. Good swing strike rate, nice hard hit numbers. Barrel rate was like 5% last year. You look at his StatCast page; it's just red all over the thing. It's everything's over the 70th percentile too, except for the walks. That's kind of the one issue. I just really like the profile. I like kind of him just becoming a little better. I think if he just drops those walks a little bit, he could be an elite guy pretty quickly. Really good home park to pitch into. ADP is a little bit kind of behind that tier we were talking about. He's about pick 88 right now. So we're talking the end of the 6th round in into the 6th round, a 15-teamer. He's somewhere that 6-7 turn, even a little bit earlier in the 6th round. I'm all over, and I think that he's going to be really, really solid with a chance for some pretty good upside too. I think he could really grow into being maybe a 3rd or 4th rounder next year.
I think so, and I think I want to say I think that his teammate Sandy Alcantara should go in the same range as Rogers, and Rogers should go a little higher, and Sandy should go a little lower.
I think Rogers will be a popular one in Vegas. I think that I'm not probably the only one on that. I think he's probably somebody you got to go maybe around early if you want to get him in the main event.
Yeah. Speaking of Vegas, and I know we're going to talk in detail about this, you reminded me, so let's remind everybody else. KDS locks for this upcoming weekend.
Yes,
so
tomorrow at like 2:00, I think.
Yes, so 2:00 Pacific. Is that correct, or Eastern?
They're in Milwaukee. I think probably Central.
That's, if only I had like this device in front of me, I could just look up and see where it is.
Use a computer while you're on the podcast.
Yeah, is that allowed? Is that okay?
Speaking of which, Justin Mason's in the chat says he's taking notes for Vegas, so hopefully he's in a different league than me at this point. Then,
yeah.
Looking forward to seeing Justin and everybody else. We're going to Vegas. First time I've been in 3. I went every year for like 12, 15 years, and I haven't been in 3 years, so I'm very much looking forward to it. No, leagues have not been assigned for the main event. They will be assigned tomorrow when KDS locks, and I think they'll do the KDS draw the day after.
Okay, so that's weird that you have like that 24-hour period.
I think it's Tuesday, and maybe they'll do it right away. I don't know. I saw it locked, but I think they're assigning the leagues, and everybody gets to see who's in the league, and then they'll figure out.
There's a lot of people doing live for the first time, like Justin. Michael Govier is doing it for the first time. Phil Dussault is doing it live in Vegas.
They sold out that Saturday morning. They all filled the capacity, so we have 105 people, 7 leagues at the same time.
Yeah. And I got to imagine main event leagues, generally speaking, are starting to fill up too. I mean,
they were a little behind with the lockout and everything, but I think the online leagues are starting to fill up. But a good sign that many people drafting in Vegas. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'll be doing an online one later. Shu and I are going to partner up on that. And
don't do it on April 6th, but other than that, you're good.
Okay, don't do April 6th. Okay, noted.
That's the day before the season. That's the one I'm in the online that night. So
yeah, Justin's making his Vegas debut. I remember the New York disaster main. Now that you bring that up, Justin, I remember because it was connected to Tout Wars. Although that was the weekend that I think that I had to hightail it out of there because I was coming back for daughter's soccer tournament.
You're coming back for the podcast. You had to get back really quick.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
What about another pitcher a little bit later down that you're trying to target and end up on a bunch of your teams?
Another guy I'm trying to target. I had it, and I just kind of spaced on it. Oh, Patrick Sandoval. Good health news recently.
That's not good. You just took mine.
Oh, good. So let's just talk about him.
Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we both like him. That's fine. That's good. That's actually a really good thing. That makes me feel like, hey, I might be smart about this. But obviously health is the big question mark with him. But man, such huge strikeout upside at pick 200. Although, newsflash, he's not going to be at pick 200. But on Saturday,
I was gonna get there, but yes, he's not going to be at pick 200.
Yeah. So, by the way, if you haven't done a live NFBC event, buckle up. The pitching is going to go earlier and earlier. You got to get used to that. It's fine. It just means some hitters that you like are going to slip a little bit, and that's always good. The case for Sandoval, lefty, high strikeout guy, doesn't have a whole lot of mileage on him. You worry a little bit about durability. He had the lumbar stress reaction. That's not a good phrase, but 15.2% swinging strike rate. That's the thing that catches my eye. That's like kind of the apple in my eye, seeing that high swinging strike rate. Could cut down on his walks a little bit too.
He could. I think it's just a health thing for me at this point. I mean, you look at that changeup, 51.4% whiff rate of the changeup, just an absurd number. Like one of those numbers you look at, you're like, oh, that must be wrong. And then you're like, oh, it's actually right. And he throws that pitch 30% of the time, too. It's not like he just spots that in 8%. Like that's a main pitch for him. Slider through 70% of the time, 28% whiff rate there. So he gets some strikeouts there. Also, you're right. The walk rate is the one thing. And he's kind of one of those pitchers. And we see a lot of guys that, if they fix that to like 7%, he could just take off. I mean, he was 3.62, 1.21 last year. The whip's a concern if the walks don't come down, but You take all those strikeouts, then you mix in the fact that he has a 51% ground ball rate too. You got a guy that strikes everybody out, gets a ton of ground balls. Like it's just you're less likely to get hurt by big innings at that point. I love what I saw last year when he's pitching before he got hurt. I like everything in the profile. I think he's going to be someone that it's going to be. You're going to look at boards and be like, oh, Sandoval won at 165 in this league. I think there's going to be a lot of people that like him. I'm willing to move him pretty significantly up. I like him more than a lot of guys in that range, so I'm willing to do it. But I think it's going to be fun. I like him a lot. Just a matter of staying healthy. He only made 14 starts last year, but I think the upside at that ADP is just mammoth.
Yeah, it is.
Other names in here, I do like a Hyun-Jin Ryu bounce back.
I do too.
At pick 201. We talked about Joe Ryan in Minnesota. Really like him. He's about pick 210. I like Jose Urquidy. I like Alex Cobb, Tristan McKenzie, or some other targets kind of in the early twos right in there. And then the baby goat, Tyler McGill, about pick 300. Will not be pick 300 in the main event either. Was throwing 95 today in the game for the Mets. He's someone that I'm willing to move up to like the 16, 17 round to make sure I get him.
So I like the skills, and I know you've talked him up earlier, but he's a little troublesome because of the
might not be in the rotation. Yeah.
Yeah. Although Taijuan Walker's lack of availability to start the season helps, but Carrasco's there. I'm not really worried about David Peterson, but unless they go commit to some sort of weird 6-man, you're just going to have to kind of ride it out a little bit because I think someone will get hurt.
That's my thing. Is someone will get hurt, and Taijuan Walker already is. So you're going to start. If Walker comes back and bumps him, like DeGrom, Scherzer, Carrasco, I think one of those guys is going to be on the aisle at some point. So
do you have the patience to hold on to him while he doesn't, though? While he's not in there.
That's the hard part because he's a pick. There's say he's picked whatever it is, 280. You're like, oh, I didn't use that much of a pick on him but it just depends for me if you, how your bench is built. You may get lucky and maybe don't have a couple injury guys you could hold him, but I like it to start, and I'm going to see where it works out just because there's enough guys in that rotation. Right. Any pitchers get hurt. I think he's going to find his way into plenty of starts.
I don't think I'm going to bump him up, but I'll take him at ADP. I mean, ADP since March 1st is pick 340.
Yeah,
he's pitcher 128. Now,
maybe I don't have to go that high. Maybe I don't have to go that high then. Maybe I can wait right till around the break and get him.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's others. If someone is going to reach that high to get him, there's someone else. I won't reach that high. He would have to be around, pick 300 or so before I start getting him there.
And if Matt Modica is in my main event league in Vegas, we'll just have a battle to see who's going to take him in the top 150.
Yeah, just don't do it based on who has more graph paper or something like that. Then
the graph paper's the best.
Yeah, McGill went at 19.1. Justin says so. There you go. That's okay. Well, that's actually that's a. At least one data point.
Pick 271. Am I doing the math right?
How about your guy Josiah Gray versus Tyler McGill?
My answer to that question is I want both of them.
Okay, good answer.
We talked about Gray in the past. I really like Gray. I like that. I'm hoping that the 5.48 and 1.36 last year maybe keeps people off a little bit, but I just love what he did in the minor leagues. I love the strikeouts. I love that he's going to get a chance to. I mean, he should have a spot there pretty easily in Washington. They're not really deep in the rotation. I think that they should just let him ride, let him roll. And after Strasburg and who knows what Strasburg, but after Corbin, you're talking Anibal Sanchez, Paolo Espino. I don't even know, Eric Fetty, I guess. Austin Vaught. There's just nobody there that I'm worried about. I think Gray's going to get his start as long as he stays healthy. And he's 24. It's time for him to let it go. And I think you get a lot of strikeouts. And at that spot, you're always there's never perfect. You got some ratio risk for sure, but you give me the strikeouts for sure, and you can figure out the walks. And he had pretty good walk numbers in A and AAA a little bit, and AA too. He's under 7%. So I like the fact that he didn't walk a lot of guys in the minors. I think he adjusts and figures that out in the majors.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of pitchers I like in this range.
I do
Rasmussen, too. Patino, Christian Javier, Yusei Kikuchi, Eric Lauer. I like all those guys to a certain extent.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of interesting names in here. I mean, even some people like Andrew Heaney, it changed direction with the Dodgers, although they're suddenly a deep rotation now. They signed Tyler Anderson, whose father hates me, but I guess I can live with that.
What? Why?
You remember Tyler Anderson last year, had that stretch where he was really good for a while. He had a bunch of good starts. Then in the last week of the season, he blew up. He gave 10 runs. And I tweeted something like, oh, I guess we were always waiting for that Tyler Anderson blow up the whole year. And his dad tweeted back at me. He's not happy with my comment.
Wow. So someone just searching under his name, obviously.
I certainly did not tag him. I don't want to be that way. No, I did not tag him.
No, you're not a tagger.
And it was a joke. Like, he's been great all this time. We're just kind of waiting for the blow up. And his dad.
Well, he had that blow up, but that was a brutal one. I remember that.
It was bad. Yeah.
And then because I think it was, I think it was the Guilds that had him in.
Oh, that's right. Didn't you win a league because of that blow up?
No. I didn't win a league last year. I won labor
somebody or something because you did that blow up, right?
I think he just lost. He didn't win a league, or it wasn't the Guilds. Guilds killed us. Maybe it was Zimmerman that had him. I forget. Someone good had him. And then I remember the blow up he had against the Braves early in the year where they just left him hanging in there. It was like,
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it was like going up against Drago. Throw in the damn towel already.
Yeah. At Atlanta was 5 innings, 9 runs. At the Angels was 2 innings, 9 hits, 9 runs, 0 strikeouts.
Yeah. And
his dad doesn't like me anymore. So it happens. I have to add him to the Brett Anderson list of people who don't like me. There's only 2 people, so that's not a bad list.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Let's get into some starting pitcher fades real quick. But first, a note from our sponsors at Better Edge. If you think your betting skills are good enough to win you a ticket to the Final Four, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. Better Edge is giving away a trip for 2 to the Final Four in New Orleans. All you have to do is join their contest at betteredge.com/Final Four. Better Edge believes sports betting with no fees should be the norm, and odds are it's legal in your state. Check it out and enter your March Madness contest for a chance to win a trip to the Final Four. Head on over to betteredge.com/Final Four. That's BETTOREDGE.com/Final Four. Terms and conditions apply. Jeff, real quick, we're going to get to relievers here in a second, but give me a starting pitcher or 2 that people like or popular that you're not drafting.
I think it's Lance Lynn. I'm coming off this career year, but had shoulder issues a little bit at times at critical moments. I just think he's going a little too soon. But man, the expected batting average was good. But I see all these other pitchers I like better in the ranges he's going. So that's part of it. Maybe if he hangs around a little later, I mean, everybody else is trending. Musgrove goes higher, Fried goes higher, maybe. But the fly ball rate is so high, 40% fly ball rate in guaranteed rate field. I'm sorry to call it by its proper name. I should call it just New Comiskey.
Comiskey to me.
Sierra was 372. I feel like you're getting that, and that comes with fewer wins. It comes along with it. There, you get like a higher whip that comes along with it if everything kind of corrects a little bit. So I feel uncomfortable taking him where he goes. That might just be a little bit of distrust. Maybe I could be proven wrong. And he's just had such a big workload over the last few years. Took pride in it, and I don't know. He was limited 157 innings last year, and I feel like once you show that little crack in the armor a little bit, it could be more coming in terms of health. So it's mostly health based, and it's just like you and I were talking how we had to scratch Jack Flaherty off our list because he's already downgraded.
That bummed me out. There's the one thing I was disappointed we didn't get to the pitchers last week because Flaherty was my big fade, but obviously you can't use him as a fade now because he's hurt, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But I did not like anything about him pitching wise coming in this year either.
Yeah. I don't want to get Pablo Lopez either, even though I like the skills. It's just, again, health. You're even getting a little bit of a discount on him. If you beat me with Pablo, you beat me with Pablo, but there's lots of people to beat me with, and I can beat you back with them. So we'll move out of that construction.
I like Lynn a little more than you do. It's not someone I'd like target, but I'm kind of okay in the range. I think he'll be really solid, but I think that I'm a little worried. The shoulder thing worries me a little bit too, kind of end of the year last year. You look at his StatCast page, it's really nice. All 3 of his X metrics are all over 90th percentile. He's got a 198 XBA, so he just got guys out. But yeah. I don't know. I find myself clicking on other names in the range too.
Yeah. So who's your guy?
Mine is Kevin Gausman, who you teased so well. Obviously a great year with the Giants last year, 281, 104, 192 innings. Great K rate, solid walk rate. We'll get kind of all the good stuff out of the way. StatCast page is pretty nice, but then you get it a little deeper. And it's like he had some quotes last year where he kind of was like, oh, I guess I'm a 2-pitch pitcher. People have figured out my splitter. I'm worried about a 2-pitch pitcher going to the AL East. I think that he was a 4.42 ERA in the second half. I think that was a little more guys figuring out he was a two-pitch guy and what was coming rather than it was the kind of wear down. We talked about Joe with Musgrove. He had a 2.12 BABIP in the first half. Like that was just absurdly low. And just I think he lived off that. I think he was obviously really good, but the price now is ADP pick 69. We're talking the 5th round right there. Hard hit rate's a little high for me at 41%. Don't love that. His xERA last year, his ERA was 2.81, xERA is 3.55. You go from San Francisco to Toronto, you're facing now the Red Sox are even better. The Yankees are obviously going to be good. He doesn't have to face Toronto, which is the nicest thing about that. But the Rays obviously score runs. So, Baltimore's about the only good lineup in the league. I just think moving from the NL West and the Giants to the AL East is going to move the numbers up as it is. The ADP is way higher, obviously, than it was last year off the breakout year. And there's enough things here that I think that in the range, I will not be taking him.
Not let alone just, first year of a big contract too.
Yep.
That's the Glenn and Rick thing. Rules of engagement. Sorry, I'll call it by its proper name, but yeah, I get it. I kind of agree.
It all depends, like in the range too. Like I'd go Fried over him. I'd take Lynn over him. You probably wouldn't. I would take Musgrove over him. There's just enough names in the range that and those guys are gone, I'll just take a different position. I think you're going to get like a 3.80 ERA from him, and I just don't want that at the price.
Sure.
You mentioned one guy. We kind of mentioned as you were passing by talking about Lynn. Where are you on world's biggest helium guy, Twitter popularity, Dylan Cease?
I haven't drafted him once yet. I don't hate him, but I typically try to avoid paying high prices for whip killers, and he may not be a whip killer. He did cut down on his walks last year. Can he build off that?
But still 9.6%. Like he cut down, but still to a place. I agree with you. As I got closer here, I knew nobody would like it, but I think he's a, I don't know if I call him a fade for me, but I don't think I'll get him anywhere just because I think he'll be more popular than I'm willing to take him. I worry about the combo of fly ball rate, walks, and a 15% barrel rate. Like he gives up a lot of hard hit balls. He gives up a lot of fly balls, and he walks guys. Like that just kind of sets you up for the strikeout stuff is insane. Like his strikeout, what was his strikeout rate? It was like 34% or something. It was something insane. 32%. Like it was off the chart insane. He has an over 40% whiff rate on the slider and the curveball. I just think he's susceptible to big innings. And when I'm picking at pick 75, that's a 5th, 6th rounder. I just don't feel comfortable with the fact that I think he's going to give up 3 on homers now and then, and that's going to kill his numbers for fantasy.
Yeah. I think he could be like a top 10 pitcher. He's got that strikeout upside. Yeah. He could go Robbie Ray on us. And that's why I'm not saying cease and desist. I am saying,
but you just wanted to say cease and desist.
Well, who wouldn't, Scott?
Of course. Understood.
I'm
not taking him, and I understand. I get the upside's there. I think the downside is also there.
I just think there's someone that's going to push him higher in every league.
I think so too.
I think that's probably why I don't get him. I'd take him around his cost right now.
I'd have to have him drop a little bit, and that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, around, like I said, around, and you and I both share like other guys in that range that we both like better. So I get it.
Let's talk a little bit about relievers before we get out of here. Give me a reliever like a top. I don't know. You can pick a number, but top.
Aroldis Chapman.
Oh, there you go. We're talking target or fade?
Fade.
Oh, okay.
Fade. Oh, did you want me to be positive? Is this you want me to accentuate the positive like the Family Channel?
Yeah, let's go positive first. A top 10 to 12 guy that you really want to attack or find a spot where you can figure out a way to get him in on your team.
Ryan Presley. I think the saves were just artificially low last year just because they weirdly didn't have as many save opportunities. And that's not something that
I had him last year. It was like so many times where they had a 3-run lead in the 8th and they tacked on. It was just
I know, right?
Maddening.
But he's a good pitcher.
Very good.
He's a stable commodity. I want him. And he's a little less expensive than Iglesias, than Diaz typically. They're about the same price actually. But in that range, I like him a little bit better than Diaz. I like him way better than Aroldis Chapman. So give me some Ryan Presley. I want a really good closer. I don't want to be like digging in the muck, and I think Presley is that. I traded for him at XFL. I've been drafting him a lot. I passed on him in yogurt because of Springer, and I do wonder if that was the right call or not. But I do like him.
I do too. I agree with you on the closer. I think I want to get one good one. Then I can the muck you described. I'm okay with my second guy trying to figure that out maybe, but I think it's so hard if you don't have one. There are so few, and with Will Smith being gone, there's another one that's just gone. And we have another team that's the Dodgers that might be a committee, might not be. Who knows what's going to happen there? My guy that I want in this top end range is Emmanuel Clase in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Love everything about him.
Same.
Just dude was awesome last year. 1.29, but 0.96. But you look at, he's got a 76.5% K rate, like really, really good. Maybe not the elitist of the closers, but way up there. But 16.8% swing strike rate. Like that K rate's going to go up a little bit. I just love the fact he's a 5.7% walk guy. Been a solid walk guy since 2018 in the minors. So you have multiple years of him being really good with walks. I hate closers with walks. We've talked about it a bunch of times. People get tired of me saying that, but I've said I love that. But then you flip a little closer. You got all these strikeouts. You got no walks. And you got a 68% ground ball rate. Like it's hard. You're going to have to give up 3 hits to give up a run in the ninth. And I love that. I hate the guys that, walk someone and gives them a bomb. So his StatCast page is literally all red. There's 14 stats on that little grid, and 13 of them are over 85th percentile. It's absurd. The only one that's not his K percentage was a little bit lower. It's 69 percentile. Like, give me a break. Hard hit rate under 30%. Give 3 barrels all year long. Like, I just love everything about him. I don't think that Karinchak is a threat, at least early on. He's have to pitch well for a couple of months to show that they want it. If like something would happen to Clase, I think that'd take a while. So I think I like no imminent threat to my closer, no matter how good he is.
Sure.
To the point that I'm almost like kind of like the back end of the draft because I can get Clase in the 3-4 turn. That brings me to another point though. Someone asked us earlier on Twitter, KDS, you mentioned it locks tomorrow for the main event. Are you moving your KDS around? KDS, for people know, is a Kentucky Derby drafting system where you can essentially rake what spots you want in what order. And then as your name comes up in the hat, you get the top remaining pick that you have on your board. So if you wanted pick 15 and you come up 8th in the slot, you could still get your top desired pick. Are you moving yours around a lot? Do you not want to say? Are you keeping it?
I don't care.
Straight butter is
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
As one said, would say straight butter is the 1 through 15. A lot of people just leave it like that too.
I've done that on some drafts. I'll tell you where I don't want to be. I
think that's the most important thing.
So here's the thing. I love being in the middle. So, but generally speaking, but what's more important, getting the first round pick you want, or being in the spot where you're comfortable every round?
I'm a little concerned you're reading my text now because I sent that message to somebody. Exact sentence.
It's the conundrum because who do you want at 7, right? The guy you want at 7 might be there at 11, or
if he's not, I think the guy at 11 is just as good.
Right, and then you're getting a better guy at 20 instead of 25.
Your cutoff is 5. So is that Turner, J-Ram, Soto, Bichette, Cole? Is that your 5?
Yeah, Turner, J-Ram, Soto, Bichette, Vlad, and Cole even.
Oh, so 6.
6. I actually don't mind 6 either. I mean, 6. I mean, Vlad is the tough one. Do I want a Vlad again or not? Do you want? I didn't do it in a main yet. Where I've gotten Vlad has been like in the 12s, which is a lot easier to build around him than it is in the 15s, obviously, because you get there's stolen base guys that come back to you. So it is actually 5 now that I think about it.
But Vlad is friggin' amazing too. Like we talk about Clase StatCast page. You look at Vlad, it's the most insane, like 90th percentile across the board in everything. Like it's just a stolen bases. It's just not there. Right.
And then so you have to wonder, like, what do you do in that? When are you going to attack your stolen bases? You talked about your discomfort with stolen base guys.
Mm-hmm.
You hate Whit Merrifield, like, he's irrationally, like he's the guy that beat the A's in the playoffs one year or something like that. But
wow, that's a low blow right there.
I know. Sorry.
That was the worst. That was the worst wild card game ever.
Uncalled for, but
I had some guy at T-ball on Saturday. My daughter plays T-ball, and he's wearing a Sal Perez jersey. I was just like, dude, like who is trolling me? I'm in LA.
The universe
dude on the other team is wearing a Sal Perez jersey. So I walked up to the guy we're talking. I'm like, oh, you don't see a lot of Royals jerseys out in the wild here. And he kind of looked at me weirdly. And it's like, yeah, he's like, oh, I love Salvi. And he did. I'm like, I kind of like some of the players, Benintendi was better last year. He's like, oh my God, players in the Royals. I was like, all right, we're done with this. I don't want to go into why I know this, but it was pretty funny. So I just stopped talking to all strangers from now on.
Yeah,
you're probably right. He probably didn't want to talk to me is probably the real reason, huh?
Actually, now that he listens to this conversation, he's like, what a jerk.
Yeah, seriously.
That's one less fan of RAs, but no, and the thing is, the stolen base guys in the second round, if you get Vlad, is Tim Anderson going to be there?
Yeah, it's Anderson, Marte, Mullins, Merrifield.
And do you want to take Marte? He dropped to the 4th round in the tag team tonight.
Yep. Just what you want in the second round is some guy whose oblique is already hurt, right?
Right. And you don't like Merrifield?
I mean, do you like spot? Do you like Merrifield there? I don't even. I know he's a fade for me. Do you like him?
In the second, no. I got him in Joker, but I got him at pick 43, so it's different.
And do you trust Teoscar to steal double digits again?
Teoscar, I will take Teoscar.
I mean, he's a member of the family, so I will too. But yes. I mean, you could leave the first 2 rounds with
10 stolen bases.
I would say 9 stolen bases, but yeah, 10 stolen bases
for sure. Vlad's going to get 1, so 9 and 1. There you go.
Yeah, Vlad will get 4, right?
Yeah.
Sprint speed, 44th percentile, not that slow.
I think the answer is if Anderson gets and Teoscar get pushed up, well, you take the pitcher that falls, or you take Jordan Alvarez. If he falls, he's not going to fall. But the point is, you take the residual. Right. But keep in mind that
just pure math, somebody has to fall. Like if a couple of guys get pushed up, that means a couple of guys get pushed down. It just has to work that way. But it's funny, we talk about you take Vlad and then take a stolen base guy, but then you're going to the 3rd round without a pitcher too.
How low does Acuna have to fall before you take him? Do you want to answer that?
I'm shocked how soon he's still going in drafts, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
So I don't think it's going to be an issue for me ever. Of course, I'm probably going to get to a spot where it's going to become an issue. I don't think I can take him because it would be like late 2nd round, early 3rd round, and he'll never get there.
Holy shnikes. His max is 22.
I wouldn't take him as max. So there's your answer.
Same. I think he's 3rd round at best.
You're missing a month. And then you're probably missing him stealing for another month. Is that I don't think that's a crazy statement.
They said he's not going to play outfield till late May.
Right. So he's not stealing bases till late May, right? Right. If he's not playing outfield, he's not stealing bases.
I would not take Acuna at 22. I would not take him at 25. If I took Vlad at 6, for instance, I'm not pairing him with Acuna. Now, I could be just the dumbest statement in the world, and that's that didn't age well. I hate that whole construction.
It's an interesting combo, though. Like, if you
it's a fun combo,
you could piece it together for 5-6 weeks. That could be be one you look at September, like I can't believe I have those guys on the same team. But that pick, so you're at pick like what's that? Pick 26 then if you go 5 and 26, yeah, because it has to add up to 31. That's probably like late 2nd is probably about the time where I'm like, you know what, maybe I'll just take a risk here and maybe light my money on fire, but take a risk. I think it's about 26, 27, 28, somewhere in there. And I'll never get him at that point.
Yeah. Care to answer the same thing about Tatis?
I mean, we're talking what, 2 months, right? So he's got 3 months, but you're missing the first month of spring training. So let's just use June 1st as a ballpark. I think he's got to get to pick like 75 or 80 for me to start to think about it.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'll get there in the main event.
Average pick since the news broke on Monday. Well, since Monday is 55. Max is 111. He went 6 once.
He went 5.1 in that tag team draft that was tonight, which is a lot of NFBC players.
Is that 15?
15.
So that's pick 61.
Yes, 61.
Okay.
I just it's in a league with Fab. You have 7 bench spots. I hate starting with a guy that's out for 2 months when in the 5th round you're taking him instead of someone who's really, really, really good too.
Yeah, instead of Alberto Mondesi. Not included in Siege leagues. Sorry,
that was the Siege turn, by the way. I think was Mondesi and Tatis.
Okay, that's
Siege.
A bold move, Cotton.
Siege is bold.
It could be. You could win, but that's one of those. You could win the league by 20 points, or you could finish in last by 20 points with that combo.
But
embrace the variance.
I'd be surprised if I get either one. To be honest with you, I'll be surprised if I get Chris Sale. I don't really want to start with. I don't want to start with a lot of injured guys, especially injured guys in the first 10 rounds. Like if you give me someone in the 20th round that I can sit on, if a bunch of hell breaks loose and I get 5 injured guys, I can drop that guy. Fine, but you give me someone who in Tatis, you can never drop him. Obviously, it was the same. It was kind of a different thing, but the same with Bobby Witt Jr. last year. Like he was moving up. It's like you got to hold him. You can never drop him. And there are people that held him all year and never dropped him. It's just
who's this year's Bobby Witt?
That's a really good question. Is there one? There's not like a top like a prospect in those like what was it, probably like mid rounds like 14, 15, 16. There's not really like a stud prospect in there that's not going to start. I guess Julio Rodriguez is the answer.
Yeah.
Did you see that home run?
Especially now that they added
Winker. That bomb? You see that bomb he hit the other day?
I did not. That's
oh god. I mean, awful hanging slider that like a lot of guys would have hit out, but holy hell, the guy's got some pop.
It is juicy to watch that. I think he does get the call at some point though.
I think Riley
does get called up.
I think Riley Green may start the year in Detroit, so I think that one kind of goes off that page.
And Torkelson will both start the year in Detroit. I want, and I'm there for that, by the way.
Yeah, James Anderson has sold me pretty hard on Riley Green.
Yeah, I have some Riley Green in my life. I don't have any Torkelson except for like a score sheet league where it's a keeper, but in any redraft, I haven't gotten Torque yet.
Riley Green's ADP over the last 3 weeks in the online championship is 278. What is his ADP in the main event when it's done?
Let's see, 278 before. Yeah, I'd say
235, 225.
Let's see, rounds 15 to 16 or so.
So that's right? At the end of round 15.
225 to 235, 240, something like that. Yeah.
I'm interested there. He was 24 home runs, 16 stolen bases, and he hit over 300 last year across AA and AAA.
Yeah, I mean he's a fully formed prospect. It's just
strikes out a lot though.
You know, which Tiger prospect are you taking first? He or Torkelson?
Green.
Green's going to have some helium too. I mean, Torkelson's going to have some helium too. Austin Hayes or Riley Green?
Riley Green.
Harrison Bader or Riley Green?
Riley Green.
Joe Adell or Riley Green?
Joe Adell.
All right, there, and Jesus Sanchez is the next highest outfielder. I kept on climbing, by the way.
Jesus Sanchez too.
All right, so yeah, you're squarely around 230 or so.
I'm trying to keep myself from not getting super fired up about Joe Adell because I love Joe Adell, and I'm trying to
I think he's kind of an afterthought for a lot of people. I haven't heard a lot of buzz about him.
It's a good thing we didn't do outfield targets this week because we would have talked about them.
Yeah, okay, we'll do those next week
after the main event. Perfect.
Yeah, there you go. After the first round of main events, there'll be others.
Is there a? By the way, the other closer I really like at the price. I like Taylor Rogers. I love him as a pitcher.
I was going to bring him up.
I don't know how that situation is going to work out, but the dude is a really, really good pitcher. And I think that even if he doesn't go early enough that I'm worried about. He goes in the 11th, 10th round, somewhere in there. Like if you get 2/3 of the saves with his ratios, I think that can work out pretty well.
So I think part of it is team context too. They care. They're going to try to win now.
For sure.
Previously, I thought that actually, when I thought that they didn't, I think it hurt him some. I don't have any Taylor Rogers yet. I want some.
He's kind of the poor man's Emmanuel Clase. I mean, it's an absurd K rate and a ton of ground balls. I love that combo. The lefty thing, I think managers tend to overcompensate for that as a closer, but I mean, he got the job done a couple years ago when they finally gave it to him. I think he's really good. I just love, it's the same thing. It's a lot of strikeouts, no walks, and a ton of ground balls. Like, give me that a closer every day, and I'll take my chances.
Blake Trinan or Taylor Rogers?
That's a really good question.
I try to make him good.
Damn, that's good. Blake Trinan barely.
All right. Taylor Rogers is going to climb too.
I think so too. And they're just in a main event, you're going to get people that are like, oh my God, there's 10 closes off the board. I don't have one yet. I'm going to take one now because I just have to take the next best one. I don't care what the ADP is, and that's going to happen in every draft.
Do you think Giovanni Gallegos' draft drops because of the comment about how we're not going to name a closer?
I think it has to, right? I'm worried that the bullpen door opens in the middle of the 7th with 2 on opening day and Gallegos comes running out. I'm really worried about that. And we talked about him a lot in the past years. I love him as a pitcher. I loved him as a pitcher last year, the year before. I'm just really worried about usage in terms of saves.
Who else can close on this bullpen? I guess there's always a guy.
Alex Reyes is gone.
He's out. Yeah. He's out at least 4 weeks now.
Yeah,
he's not throwing for at least 4 weeks.
I guess Nick Wittgren's the answer to that if he were to find the old form.
Jordan Hicks, maybe, once they say screw this whole him starting thing.
They're stretching him out right now, right?
I know they are, but they also said it's not going to be ready.
Genesis Cabrera, Ryan Helsley. You're right. He's far and away the best pitcher in the bullpen. I am concerned at his ADP with where the usage kind of falls out.
I think there might be some value with him because he's just good.
Where are you seeing him drop? I agree, by the way, that he's really good. Oh, wow, he's a pick. He's in the last month in the OCs. He's picked, or last 3 weeks. He's picked 107.
In the last week from March 14th, he's 128.
He starts to get really interesting there because that's a really good pitcher for that range because he was in the 80s and 90s for a long time there.
For sure. Well, and I think as we get closer, the draft and hold closer madness kind of that effect wears off a little bit, and the starting pitcher madness kicks in. Something's got to give.
Give me a real quick. Your reliever fade is Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, fewer innings, climbing walk rate, walk year, and sometimes that's not good for a closer. They've traded him once before. He's getting hurt a little bit more often. I'd rather be a year too soon than a year too late on him.
Yeah, mine is kind of similar year to his Mark Melancon. There is no way I'm taking Mark Melancon. He was a league winner last year. I mean, where you took him, he won leagues with 39 saves in the round 26 or whatever it was. He was the third closer drafted on the Padres last year behind Pagan and Drew Pomeranz. But
don't I know that?
Yeah, I know I know that too. The 22% K rate's not good for a closer, and I don't like the fact that he combines that with a lot of walks. He's got a 9.4% walk rate. I hate that when the guy doesn't strike out a lot of guys. The ground balls do help, so he does have that aspect of it, but his xERA last year was a full 2 runs higher than his earned run average. XBA was 19th percentile. Chase rate is 20. He doesn't get anybody to chase. Whiff rate was 14th percentile. His fastball is like a 14% whiff rate. It's just, there's so much there that I don't like with him. He's a crafty veteran that could get by in Smoke and Mirrors League last year. I think Ian Kennedy getting signed is actually concerning. I think that
agree.
3 bad outings, maybe they Kennedy can get it done too. They paid Melancon enough that the leash is probably pretty good. What they pay him? They paid him $14 million for 2 years. So not that much. That $7 million a year. His ADP is 113. I want no part of that.
Yeah, it's slipping from Monday, March 14th on. It's down to 139.
Do you have a 30th round reliever? By the way, strategy note. I think you want to grab at least 1, if not 2, kind of good middle relievers in the last 3 rounds of main event. I think that April is going to be a month where starting pitchers go 3 or 4 innings a lot. I think that it's I think if you can use a roster spot for the first 3 weeks of the season, I think getting a couple middle relievers will be very useful. So I think there's going to be a lot of starting pitchers you're not want to throw out there for 3 innings with no chance of a win.
Agreed. Is it cheating to say Art Warren for your? Because I think the note about Sims is going to bump up Warren's cost. I'd say Jorge Alcala, even though I like Rogers a lot. Alcala could be the guy if they decide they don't want a lefty closing. I was talking about Chris Stratton earlier, and he's in that range.
Is he in Pittsburgh now? He's Pittsburgh, right?
He is. He was the guy that got some saves late last year when Bednar was hurt.
Yeah. So you think Bednar traded early or just struggles a little bit?
I like Bednar's skills.
Yeah,
I question usage, and especially because I could see Pittsburgh trying to do a Richard Rodriguez thing again, or just hey, let's use the veteran and try to flip him.
So my answer might even be a little too deep to take in the 30th round, but I think it's someone you watch in Fab, and the first little blip you pick him up is Domingo Acevedo in Oakland.
Ooh, local knowledge. I like it.
Knowledge. Last year in February, you asked me who would you take for A's saves if you're in the DC, and I said Lou Trevino. So that worked out pretty well. I don't like Lou Trevino very much. Not as a human. I don't like him as a closer. Too many walks, not enough strikeouts. Acevedo was weird. He was a starting pitcher coming up to the Yankees organization, and I think he found something in this mysterious 2020 when nobody pitched and we don't know what happened. He came back. He started as relieving in 2019, wasn't great. Last year in AAA, 32 and 2/3 innings, 53 strikeouts, 6 walks. 42.1% K rate with no walks. I love what I saw from him. He pitched 11 innings for the A's in the majors, had a good ERA and whip, but obviously 11 innings, who cares? But I think that stretch of 30 AAA innings really intrigued me with him. I think that the strikeouts are now there. I think that he's a low walk guy. I think Trevino's going to just explode at some point. You just can't not strike guys out and give up that many walks. I think they're going to move on. And I think it'll be to Acevedo. I think Acevedo could be closing, and I think it's before the All-Star break.
And even if Trevino is good, that just means they'll trade him. So
they'll definitely trade him at the deadline whenever they get there, or even before that. But I think Acevedo takes the job before the deadline.
Yeah, and
it's hard to hold him. But if you're in the 30th round, you're stuck. You're like, what do I do here? Maybe I pick him up and see how the first 2 weeks goes. If Trino goes a couple saves, I hold him. If Trino gets a couple saves, then go ahead and move on and kind of keep it on the watch list. But I think he gets double-digit saves this year.
Yeah, we're gonna find the podcast listener who take in when we see Acevedo go at pick 350 now.
There you go. He's his ADP right now in DC's in the 700s.
Yep.
Complete afterthought.
2 picks since March 14th out of 47 drafts. So there you go.
I actually forgot to take him in TGFBI the 30th round. I meant to, and I think I did something else. I took some. I forget, but I was like,
That's probably because you were anger picking at that point.
When we finished last, I was definitely anger picking at that point. But a very deep cut. But I think that Domingo Acevedo will help fantasy teams by the time this year is over.
Very good.
Anybody else you want to talk about? We've gone way too long here. Anything else on your mind?
No, I just can't wait to talk about our teams next week.
I know. I very much look forward to it. I look forward to seeing you on, I guess, are you coming up Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday night. Doing a golf tournament during the day and then driving up. Shu and I are going to drive up and do a lot of prep together. By then we'll know our draft slot and our opponents.
Nice. And then we got some hanging out on Friday. We're going to play golf again. If my back agrees to play golf, we'll do that. But other than that, I think we're good to go. I appreciate everybody listening to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. You want to follow Jeff on Twitter? He is at Jeff_Erickson. I am at Scott Jenstad. We're obviously talking a lot of baseball here all week. If you want to ask questions or talk about stuff, we'll be talking about main event drafts next Sunday. That seems kind of surreal, Jeff. I didn't know if we'd get here about a month ago.
I know. Just like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing everybody more than anything. I just, I said, I haven't been there in 3 years. I have a lot of actual people who are real friends in my life who are through this world. And, you and I live in the same area, kind of see each other every once in a while, although not as much as we probably should. But there's a lot of people I haven't seen for 3 years. So it'd be a lot of fun to hang out and catch up and see everybody and give some, I don't know, what do you do? Fist bumps, high five these days? Like you can't hug. I don't know what goes on, but it'll be good to see everybody and hang out. And there's some parties and stuff we'll go to. So it'll be a good time.
It's a shame because you're a great hugger. So
I am a great hugger. Yeah, I'm not a hugger. In case everybody thought Jeff was being serious, I prefer as little human contact as possible. But thanks everybody for listening. We really appreciate it. We'll be back at you next Sunday night, talking some main event, talking a lot more news, and we'll chat with you then. So look forward to it. I hope everybody has a great week and take care.